Mark Wahlberg. How did I find everything about that amazing. How did Mark Wahlberg become a part of this?
Mark is awesome. Mark is incredible. It's an honor and privilege to get to work with him. He had this interesting experience he shared where he felt like a few years ago, he felt like God was calling him. He's always taken his faith seriously. He's always been a very public witness of his faith, which is hard to do in Hollywood. And
well, not only hard to do, almost without any precedent, really. I can't think of the last famous actor who did something like that, other than Mel Gibson.
For folks who aren't really in the Hollywood world, it's hard to understand how unpopular it is. But it takes a tremendous amount of courage. Like, people will tell you your career will be over. Everyone will hate you. Okay, maybe you can talk about faith, but like, talk about it broadly. Don't talk about Jesus specifically. You certainly can't talk about Jesus. And, I have these conversations all the time. And Mark, has this incredible courage. But anyway, he felt like,
because I don't really see the upside for him.
Oh no, there's none. I mean, other than doing the good Lord's will, which is a tremendous upside in and of itself. But from a career perspective, certainly not. So he felt like God was calling him to use this platform, this gift that God had given him, for God's glory, to share what God had done with him. And he does a great job of sharing his faith in a way that doesn't feel like he's like ramming it down your throat or anything. He's just like, hey, I have this friend named Jesus. He's changed my life. He's given me everything good in my life has come from God. And I just want to share that with people. And so it's this, but anyway, he felt like God was calling him to do something. And so he did this film called Father Stew. And this was a few years ago. He produced it. He funded it himself. It was all him. He starred in it. And it was this beautiful film. And we worked, initially, Hallow was decent sized, but still pretty small. And so we worked with him to help promote it and to create some content around it. And he says, he's like, God, he thought he was making a deal with God where he'd do this one thing. He'd like do this one film, and that would be his thing. That would be his God thing. And what's happened since is God just was just cracking the door, and now he's like slamming it wide open. So now he does all this stuff with Hallow and with a bunch of things with the faith, but especially with Hallow, he does these incredible fasting challenges where like he has many talents, obviously, but one of them is this incredible discipline. Like, you see him all the time, wakes up at 4, does his cold plunge, does a workout like twice, does prayer every day. And so like leading people in fasting, which people often forget about fasting, is like prayer and fasting must go together. And so he has these incredible fasting challenges that he leads people through on the app, but he's just been, he's a great guy to get to work with. I remember the first time he FaceTimed me at like 8 p.m. on like a Friday night or something. And it was one of the first times I'd talked to him. And I don't often talk to super famous people. And so I was a little nervous, it was FaceTime for Mark Wahlberg. I was like, this is really cool. My wife's sitting here next to me. It was, just the middle of the night, and we just talked, and it was like a 30-second conversation. He was just like, hey, I'm really excited about Father Stew. It's going to be great. We're hearing great things from folks. It's coming together really nice. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he was like, yeah, and with Hallow's going to be incredible. We're going to change the world together. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he was like, yeah, Hallow's going to be great. We're going to pray together. We're going to welcome the Lord into people's hearts. Jesus is going to do incredible things. This is going to be great. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he was like, all right, man, have a great one. Have a good one. And then he hangs up, and my wife looks at me. And people ask like how you stay humble. And my wife looks at me, and instead of saying like, oh man, that's cool, you got to talk to Mark Wahlberg, or like, whatever that he just FaceTimed you or any of that stuff, she was like, you said awesome a lot. Like, that's all you said. and I was like, wow, I'm going to be thinking about that for the next 2 years of my life, how stupid I sounded on a FaceTime. But anyway, he's been really honestly incredible. It's, like this past Ash Wednesday, he went and did a bunch of PR where he goes and has a giant ash cross on his forehead and goes and does all these shows on, nobody's seen somebody with a giant ash cross on their forehead on any of these shows, Today Show or any of that stuff. And I remember we did, this is another funny story about God being in charge, but we were in New York And we were about to go on all these shows for the launch of kind of this Lent series, which our biggest launches are, well, we have one coming up about the election, One Nation Under God, and then we have kind of a season leading up to Christmas, which is an Advent launch, and then a Lent. So really right now, this time of year is where kind of our biggest launches are. But it was Ash Wednesday, which is the day that our Lent challenge kicks off. And we did a little mass in the hotel, just in a conference room in the hotel, a private mass. We had a priest come, and it was just like 4 or 5 of us. And it was funny because the reading was like how you're supposed to fast in private, which is true. You're supposed to fast and pray, not like show off like, hey, I'm this great person, I'm fasting. And so that was the gospel. And then Mark goes up to get his ashes, and he was like, hey, Father, I know I'm not supposed to like do this publicly from today's reading, but could you make this ash cross like really big and really dark and really black? Because I'm going to be on TV all day.
Now, we've told you before about a staff favorite here at TCN, the 8 Sleep Pod. What is it? It's a high-tech mattress that we talk about over lunch here, our mattresses, because this one is excellent. It's high-tech. It's a cover. It goes right over your existing bed. Well, this Christmas, you can get it for the best price of the year, up to $600 off. The 8 Sleep Pod works by adjusting the temperature, warmer or cooler, depending on your preference, and it maintains an ideal sleeping network all night long. Now, you might not know this, but through different phases of sleep, every night your body's needs change. Sometimes you want it warmer, sometimes colder. That's why you throw the sheets off. That's why you pull them around you at other parts of the night. You don't have to do that anymore with 8 Sleep because it automatically keeps things exactly where you want them throughout your entire night's sleep, what's called the sleep cycle. And it's been studied. It's clinically proven to increase quality sleep time every night. That improves your recovery time from physical exertion, makes you a little sharper, makes your health better. It learns and adapts to your sleep patterns over time, and it automatically adjusts temperatures throughout the night through each phase of your sleep. And it does this independently for up to 2 people in a bed. So each person can have a tailor-made sleep. It really helps. People here absolutely love it. 8 Sleep. Go to 8sleep.com/Tucker. Use the promo code Tucker to get up to $600 off the Pod 4 Ultra. You can try it with no obligation for 30 days. If you don't like it, just send it back. That's 8sleep.com/Tucker. Better sleep, truly.
Has it hurt Wahlberg's career since you said that it might?
Mark is in an interesting place because, he produces most of his own stuff now and can fund a lot of it, and he's trying to build. What he does really is he tries to focus on a handful of things that he really tries to build. So he has like a health company, a clothing company, Hallow, and a handful of other things he's really focused on building. But honestly, there's a lot of like, he'll post about like, just stay prayed up, just something. He'll literally just look at the camera and be like, hey, stay prayed up in front of a church or in front of a statue of Jesus or Mary or something, and just invite people to pray. And he had a friend of his come up to him and say like, hey, haven't you seen that everyone, like, haven't you read your comments? Like, everyone hates you for these posts. And he's like, comments? Dude, I haven't read comments in like 30 years. You can't read comments on social media. That'll destroy you. And he's like, what I see is that these posts, whenever I post about Jesus or talk about Jesus, they get like, 10 times the number of views that anything else I talk about gets.
Yes.
People are clearly hungry for this. And we've shared a bunch of these stories of how, that woman who almost ended her life saw a post from him talking about Jesus and was able to, it's an interesting thing because to reach out to somebody who doesn't take their faith seriously, my face isn't really going to get them to stop, but Mark's face will. It'd be like, wow, that's weird enough. Like the guy from the Bear movies talking about Jesus. Like that's a weird thing. I'm just going to, it's just weird enough that I'm going to try it. But anyway, for him, he's just, I don't know. It takes a bravery. I mean, for a bunch of folks, but then through it, I think God actually does these really cool things. And you're starting to see actually in Hollywood now. I was just talking to somebody, I was in LA this week, and they were saying, this is the first time in like 30 years that someone has come asking for faith-based scripts, asking for faith-based material. And they're like, it's not because the studios are suddenly trying to share Christ. It's because, you see things like Hallow, or you see things like Bible in a Year or The Chosen or whatever it is, and you see these things working. You see people are actually really hungry for it. And it's, Scripture again is pretty clear. It's if you seek first the kingdom of God, all the other things will be given unto you. It's like, and now it's scary and you go through like a dip. I mean, for me, certainly. but God then brings you these incredible blessings on the other side of it. So I don't know. I mean, Mark's, Father Stu did really well. His obviously Hallows blown any of our expectations or anything that we expected out of this water. So yeah, for him, I think it's been a pretty cool ride. It's just awesome to see somebody who has this incredible platform and talent and gift use it for the greater glory of the kingdom. So it's a blessing.
And be rewarded for it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.